It's 55 already. Oh, snap. I need the rest of this case. Where the heck's the rest of this case at? There's a knife. Yeah, we're going. The knife is going to be the idle tool today. No, we wait. Oh, snap. Hold up. Dang it. I can't hold up now because people are in here. It's Hara. Welcome. Or Hara. Or Hera? It's probably not Hera. Maybe. But I feel like if it was Hera, it would be H-R-A as opposed to the way that it is spelled now. Is it Hara? How do you pronounce your name? Lucy, 1949. Welcome. You've been alive for a pretty long time, Lucy. SG7 creates welcome. What do you create, fam? Chelsea? Oh, snap. Chelsea, what's good? How are you this wonderful morning? You not in school, are you? I don't even know what winter break is like right now. I gotta invite J.R. I don't know how to say his name. Gotta invite the manga dude. I was reading Saturday AM, and this man had the audacity to drop some heat for Africa. It's a whole story about creating taekwondo and underground fights, and it's amazing. So I asked him if I could talk to him, and now we get to talk to the dude. Be gone. But yeah, people, welcome to the live. We haven't had a talkie talk live in a little bit. Welcome, brother. How are you? Oh, snap. Hold up. Did you come on your own? I didn't even have to summon you. You just in here? Wait, hold up. So can I? No, you gotta hit the request button. I can't request button you. How was 2020? Should we do a 2020 year-end wrap-up with the podcast? I think that might be a move, yo. Because this Man United ain't saved the video. That episode was fire, but it was also highly canceled. Welcome.
Yo, what's good, man?
Everything. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
This is very good. Snap. Well, I guess we are in the same time zone, so I guess you've been awake for a little bit, right?
Not really. No, you said 11 o'clock. I'm like, why? I'm not 11, 12. I'm like, why does this guy make me do this in the morning?
Because if it was late at night, Reddit would be too active and I wouldn't get these fire answers.
Bro, I'm a night owl, man. I was up till 4 a.m. working last night.
Oh, what were you working on?
Underground, man.
Now, do you drop new chapters of Underground every month?
No. So we're published every 3 months. So we're quarterly. Okay. So occasionally, I'm ahead. I have a chapter and a half ready. Other times, I'm like, oh no, it's time. It's grind time. We're due for another issue, and I'm rushing. No, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, the quality of your work is why I asked, because it's really detailed. Like, who are the artists that help nudge you into the position you're in right now?
Like my inspirations?
Yes.
I really like Takehiko Inoue. Vagabond is just so good. Shoot, I forget the artist's name, but he did this series called Green Blood. It's a manga. It's like Western style. It's pretty good too. So those would be like my main artistic inspirations. Other than that, I really like reading, a lot of different types of martial arts manga. So I've read Shamo, Hajime no Ippo, obviously. I've read Baki, Karate Shokoshi Kohinata Minoru. That's a mouthful, but I've read a good amount of that. And also video games too. So Street Fighter, Tekken. Because I love martial arts. I've been doing it all my life.
Really?
I actually I've been doing taekwondo since I was 7. I did Muay Thai for a little bit. I've done boxing. I've done a tiny bit of jujitsu. So I've been around a little bit, and a lot of artists who talked to me and told me to as I was growing as a mangaka myself, was like draw what you know. So when I was getting ready to submit my story to Saturday AM, it was like, what would be something that's really me? And that ended up being a biracial main character who fights using taekwondo, and then having an underground martial arts series taking place in New York. So
It most definitely shows. That's the thing that impressed me about it the most, because as a martial artist, I read a lot of these manga, and I know you can't work for Shonen Jump your entire life and be a master at drawing manga and also understand martial arts at such a deep level at the same time. But oftentimes, the one point of contention that we see, or the one point of disagreement we see in manga, is the actual culture of martial arts itself outside of what you see in movies. And so when the main character is in the dojang in the first chapter, and he's talking to his students, and he has the experience of somebody that would be a young instructor in a martial arts, I was like, this person knows something.
Well, I mean, I was also, a young instructor in a dojo. So, uh,
Nice.
so I know the feeling. Of course, a lot of the times I'm working with little kids as opposed to, well, no, I've worked with both actually, because back in college, I was an assistant instructor for our taekwondo class, and I actually worked with a lot of, students from Turkey and South Korea who also had to go back for, military, and they were doing taekwondo to like get in shape before that. So
That's freaking dope. What do you think is the difference in instructing people that are younger versus people that might be a little bit older?
um, I'd say, obviously, people who are closer to your age tend to actually listen a little bit more. Trying to, well, you know, kids are receptive too, obviously, but like, sometimes getting kids to do what tell them to do, and teaching them like certain principles, because, Taekwondo, it's both, it's a sport, but it's also like tradition at the same time. So we have to teach them things like respect and humility. And that can be oftentimes difficult concepts for kids to grasp immediately. Unless you're their parent, it's kind of hard to get a kid to respect you the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are also kids who get it immediately. They're they're not as they're not as predictable as as older students are. But that can also be the fun of it too.
Yeah, I
It's
remember.
harder work, but it's more rewarding sometimes.
Yeah, it pays off. That's my favorite thing about martial arts, is that no matter what martial arts you do, you'll always have interesting experiences if you stay long enough.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it doesn't even really, it doesn't matter like what martial art you do. So like so long as you're enjoying it and you're growing from it, that's what I found. And these are kind of like things I want to come across in my series. I mean, yeah, it's going to be like a brutal underground type of martial arts series, but I also want to have like that sense of tradition in it as well. Those more Eastern traditions that you see in martial arts. If that can come across too in my series, I think that will be like the full package.
I agree, and that's what attracted to me the most. How did you manage balancing, or what process did you go about balancing the Eastern and Western influences and cultures that appear in your manga?
Well, I think that's the benefit of having my main character do Taekwondo, is that it's a pretty worldwide martial art that has a very sports aspect to it, a very competitive sports aspect. You have the sparring, and you have ITF and WTF Taekwondo. Well, actually now it's WT Taekwondo. And all these different ways they compete. But at the same time, you also have these Eastern traditions that you'd see in, things like kung fu movies and things like that. So having my main character, do Taekwondo, those principles sort of came off kind of naturally. And it's really just a matter of sort of juxtaposing it with the just pure sport of fighting underground. And, having two sort of characters that sort of contradict each other and complement each other in a way makes theming that a lot easier. So my main character, Kareem, and his brother, Elijah, kind of have like a dynamic there where one is a lot more traditional and the other is a lot more sport. And then sort of juxtaposing those two characters with each other, the theming kind of comes off naturally. And it's something that I'm going to try to explore later down the line in the series. So for people watching, if you read Saturday PM, I start in issue 4, and I've been in every issue up to issue 11, which actually came out December 25th. So, for anyone who's interested, you can check it out there. And, there'll be more content down the line that will explore martial arts more.
Yes. And
I'm already working on the next issue, and 3 months from now it's gonna come out. So
I'm grateful for it. You beating Miura when it comes to output.
I don't miss an issue, man. We're talking consistency, so.
I'm grateful for it, yo. You mentioned Vagabond, you mentioned Baki, you mentioned Hajime no Ippo. How does pacing play a role in how you write your story and plan your stories out and plot them out?
Well, pacing is actually something I struggle with a lot. I think that when it comes to my series in particular, it's important to really keep the story moving towards the next fight as quickly as possible. Because in the end, that's what the readers are there for. It's the combat aspect of it. I think a lot of different martial arts series do this differently, and there are different benefits to how they do it. Hajime no Ippo really likes to build up to each fight and really, give you really add tension, because the main character and his Dempsey role, that's his main weapon, and each antagonist that is introduced is kind of a foil not just to him but his technique, the technique that he sort of builds himself on. So he has to evolve to meet each challenge, and it's both like you have to have enough of a foil before each fight, but you also want to get there as efficiently as possible. So that's something that I'm working on myself, is trying to build characters who are foils to my main character, while at the same time trying to get to the next fight as quickly as possible so that people stay interested.
Yeah. Were you a writer first or an artist first?
Definitely an artist first, because I've been drawing pretty much all my life. But different writing techniques is something I've been trying to build on, mostly through college courses that I've taken, and just sort of reading different manga. It's important to have references both artistically and as a writer. So reading as much material has definitely helped with that. And then we have editors at PM and AM that are able to, help out a lot.
That's really huge. What is it like working with AM and PM? Whole conglomerate.
When I was looking into AM, it was something I actively sought out, and it's been rewarding ever since. Like, I've seen myself grow artistically and as a writer faster than I have, doing it by myself. And even, working with other people. This has been, the fastest growth I've ever seen. And, everyone's just fantastic, really. They're all just a joy to work with. So no complaints from me.
I'm really glad. There the way they operate is really cool, and I haven't seen anything like them before them. And seeing what they're able to accomplish now, the collaborations they're doing, free toys that they have.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and they're high quality too. Like, I've seen Fred show the samples. I'm getting some myself. It's great, really.
Yeah, I'm glad for their commitment to quality. I'm glad the moves that they make, because especially as a Black company, specifically a Black company operating in an Eastern niche, it can be easy sometimes to take quantity and to pump out as much stuff as possible, especially running a freaking clothing company. But then the quality pays off more in the long run. I guess in the same way that sowing that seed into the seed of martial arts into a little kid, when they get older, you get to see them become this freaking superhero when they're like bigger than you.
Yeah, and quality is important to that. When I was learning taekwondo, I had like a long break in between my red belt and my black belt. But my initial introduction to taekwondo was, it sowed the foundations for everything I practiced later. So treating media and content that you create is really just the same thing. Trying to build that foundation that will keep people coming back for more, no matter how long they have to wait for it.
Yeah. What would you say to an artist that wanted to be in your spot right now? What would you tell them to get them over that hump that you might have got caught on?
Well, it's important, one, to be sharing your work. That's one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of new creators out there, is that they have work that they've made, but they're scared to share it on a platform that exposes it to people they have not, seen, met, or anything like that. I know when I started, I had a sketchbook that I showed to a couple close friends of mine, and they were like, "Yo, this is the best thing ever." And as I started showing more people, they're like, "Yeah, meh." But it's something that you have to really do. You have to get your work out there, so that people can see it, and that you can grow from their critiques and their response to it, which is another thing that a lot of artists struggle with, is critique. I think you have to be receptive to what people have to say, and this is coming from someone whose first initial pitch to Saturday AM did not go through. I actually I met them at a convention in New York, Anime NYC. I think this was 2018 or 2017. And I had pitched this story that was very, it's very fanboyish. It's like, the ethnicities of the characters are very ambiguous. It had a very, stereotypical shonen type of vibe to it, and nothing was really fleshed out. And they commented on that. It's like, where do you plan on going with any of this, really? And it's not easy to hear that sometimes, like, people have critique for your work, but by taking that at what it is, a critique, and responding to it appropriately, you grow from that. And I wouldn't have been able to come up with my own story. My art wouldn't have grown the way it has if I didn't respond to critique the way I should have.
Exactly.
So getting your work out there and responding to critique is really important.
Yeah, because people that are good at things care about the information they're giving you. Because they ain't got to give you that information. And so if they taking their time to tell you something and to advise you, then they're generally doing it so you can become better. And if you follow that advice or know how to receive it, then you'll become better from listening to them.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to tell genuine critique from just random haters.
Exactly.
Just let them be. Just let them hate.
Yeah, and that's the good of the art community, especially. I don't know how long you've been around on the internet in terms of art communities on the internet, but communities of artists, oftentimes when the goal is not to get commissions or the goal isn't clout, but when the goal is like making sure that your friends are dope, they'll give you certain tidbits that could be something as simple as use blending mode so that you have lighting on your images, or use freaking reference so that you know what anatomy looks like. And those are the things that push you into being in better places.
Yeah, no, and I even have like artist friends who will give me like honest critiques. Like they'll be like, "Yeah, yo, this is okay," but you could be like doing this with. It's like, okay, thanks, bro.
And I see the growth, especially, this is my favorite thing, when the writer is also the artist. You see it a lot in image stuff, and I guess in manga, because the writer usually is the artist. You see it a lot in manga as well, where the writing, the writing gives context and the art gives subtext, and then those switch places. That way, the art is saying what the page is, what the writing isn't, and the writing is saying what the image isn't, and so you get two stories in one. And like when people are freaking fighting on the moon, bro, how did you come up with that?
Actually, that's interesting. I at my dojang where I practice taekwondo. It's actually we actually take three different Korean martial arts: taekwondo, hapkido, and kumyedo. And this was actually more of a kumyedo imagery. And kumyedo is like it's a Korean sword fighting martial art. And one thing we were taught when we were learning to cut properly was actually fire extinguishing with the sword. Not like cutting the wick, but we had like bokken style swords, like wooden swords, and we would extinguish candlelight with just cuts. And it was an image that our grandmaster told us to keep in mind was, imagine you're cutting the moon's reflection on water, but you're not creating ripples in the water itself. And by doing that, you'll extinguish extinguish the candle. So, and that theory can play a lot into different techniques depending on like how you throw them. So, I thought it was a pretty like it's the kind of thing that you'd learn from a traditional martial art and would also be, again, something to really show the differences between these two characters here, was how his tradition helped him benefit in a physical manner that allowed him to, overcome the main character in the end of chapter 5. So, but yeah, that's where that came from.
Wow, that's freaking dope. And yeah, that proves the thing about if you stick in a martial art for long enough, some crazy anime things.
Yeah, you learned some crazy stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people pop into a dojo for 5 weeks and like, hey, where my black belt and my kamehameha? Not realizing cool stuff don't happen for a little bit. Because similar thing happened to me was there was a Wing Chun master that I ended up training with, and he said, "I am the wind and you are the tree." And then he punched the mouth out of the air, and I moved, like I like reflexively like blocked him because he was about to freaking punch me. It was like, if wind doesn't touch a tree, does the tree move? And I was like, no. And he said, good. And he punched me. I tried so hard not to.
Yo, yeah, no, that's dope.
It is. And I realized the expounding on that was that you don't have to move unless you're in danger of being hit. And if you only move when you're going to be hit, then as long as someone doesn't come in your box, you're good. And if they do come in your box, you know what quadrant of your box they're coming into, so you can counter them perfectly and waste no movement.
Yes, I feel as though I actually remember seeing something similar to that in a manga. I'm trying to remember where.
I don't know.
But
It might have been Kenichi, because Kenichi was the
no,
first
that was it. That was it. Yeah,
ever.
no.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing. Because the same thing happened to me that happened to you when it comes to making like a shonen as like one of the first things. The first thing I ever made was basically like ethnically ambiguous Kenichi, and that of course didn't pan out very well. It's been transmuted into
Well, then you were one step ahead of me at least, because at least you took like your martial arts traditions and put it in. I had my initial series had none of that.
That's the
It was
problem.
like main character with big sword fights giant in.
Bro, I legit read Kenichi and was like, oh, I need to just make this me. So then I just turned all of Kenichi stories into me and drew them while I was in middle school going
No,
hard.
but I mean, that's a step forward, man. You know, like, cause at least it's you. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of new creators out there who want to make specifically manga. You know, they're in that fanboy mindset, and what they do is they try to create stories as if they were in Japan, and then it doesn't come off as genuine. When you create something that's you, you know, that's a lot more, you know, people are going to respond a lot more to it. And you know, I've seen that with my own series because again, it's my main character is half black, half Korean, and people have they've responded to my series and told me, "Yo, your main character speaks to me, man." Like, you know, it feels a lot more genuine when you are drawing from a place that is you, as opposed to, you know, drawing what you think manga is supposed to be. Doesn't
Exactly.
have to
Because
be, you
all
know,
great manga
Naruto's all
makers.
over the place.
Oh, exactly. Because
Yeah,
we've had enough. Like all the early 2000s is just retelling of Dragon Ball, and all the best ones have already been made. So we need some new stuff now.
yeah, you know, I mean, it's, you know, you can be influenced by it, absolutely, you know. Dragon Ball has influenced a lot of, you know, other manga creators too. So, you know, having that as an influence, I think is fine. But when, you know, you're drawing a series and you think that your main character has to be, you know, this spiky haired character with a really Japanese name who goes to a high school in Japan and they do all these traditions that you don't know because you've never been to Japan yourself, um, then it doesn't come off as, you know, you. And people are going to see that.
Exactly. And that's huge. Do you think that creators should spend time living before they start creating their magnum opus?
Well, yes, I think, but I think a lot of creators live and then don't realize that they have a story to tell at all.
Oh.
Um, like, you know, you don't need to be living like jumping out of planes and doing all this crazy stuff to, you know, create a story that is you and is something that people are going to want to read. Um, Through your life, you sort of build references, and you can take those references and create something fantastic from it. I don't think you need to, you know, actively be trying to be Goku in order to create a Goku.
Truth. Because I became Kenichi, and that's what made me realize I don't need to be Kenichi. I don't need to make a story about it. Because there's
Yeah.
so much cooler things that can be made. Huh. 200 chapters down the line. 200 chapters down the line, what do you want to create? Or what story do you want to tell?
Um, you know, it's kind of hard to say because I'm very much a gardener when I write. You know, a lot of stuff just sort of comes to me as I go along. I think it helps with the kind of story I'm making. You know, it being a martial arts series where, you know, it's just a matter of pitting foils against each other. Um, but I do want like my work to be something that influences other creators. Um, you know, I want to be like, or I want my story to sort of be like the kind of stories that I would have read and then looked at and be like, I want to create something too. Um, so if that means developing my art to be better, developing my story to be better, it's something I'm willing to push to do.
Mm.
Um, I think at the same time, creating a story means you always have to be moving forward. You always have to be working towards the next page and not spending too much time dwelling on the page you made before. Um, it's because for me, I've tried a lot of different stories before I started underground. Um, and one thing, one of my mentors had told me was, you gotta keep making work and finishing it. You gotta move past each page. Otherwise, you're always going to look back and think, how can I make this perfect? And it's never going to be that.
Mm.
You're never going to get to that point where you think it's perfect.
Right.
So keep pushing forward.
Hmm.
And yeah. I
Snap.
feel as though I lost your question, but I mean, if my story again, just if it's able to do the kind of thing that other stories have done for me, that would be what I would want it to do.
Hey man, the questions are just an excuse to have you talk. You talk about whatever the heck you. This is an excuse for you to talk to the people, fam. I'm just an intermediary.
Yeah, yo, I appreciate it, man.
No, I mean it. You go on in the flow state, and it's beautiful to watch because then I get inspired, but I gotta remember to come with more questions.
Well, I mean, it's not like I'm a big creator or anything, but like, since I've been, working with Saturday AM, PM, and a lot of different other creators out there, I've seen myself grow a lot, and I've learned a lot of different things along the way. Before any of this, I was, convention hopping with, little portfolio, and I'd be ready to just show it to people who were willing to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's something you got to do. Show people your work, no matter how scared you are of strangers seeing it. Because sometimes those strangers like know what they're talking about and can connect you to other scarier strangers who who will teach you even more, and you just move up the line of scary strangers.
Yeah, who are some of the strangers that push you on the path you are now? Because watching your progression in art is really interesting, and you saying your inspirations now, they make sense. And the line work you use and the hatching you do, the shading especially, and also the layout of your pages. So who are some of those people that helped you to craft the style that you have now and what it's evolving into?
Well, I mean, before I was working with PM, they were strangers to me. And I remember going to that booth at Anime NYC and thinking that this is terrifying. I want to vomit. Which is, it's how I felt about basically every creator I ran into at different conventions, especially the ones who were willing to say, "Hey, I'm doing portfolio reviews," and they'd stand there and they looked like the final boss to, some adventure game you've been playing for hours and hours, and it's terrifying. But it's super rewarding. Raymond Brown, the creator of Bully Eater, was the first one to review my work at Anime NYC, and then he was like, "Yo, I want you to come back and meet Frederick." And then I remember going back, and that was absolutely horrifying because I mean I had already seen some of the reviews they did back when he was back when they were doing pilot manga.
Mm-hmm.
They did video reviews of a lot of the people pitching their stories, and it was like that, but in person. And I'm like, man. But I came out of that with the story I have now. So it's again rewarding just to face these really scary people.
It's literally hitting a level up. There's a person in AM, I believe, that has a story about art battles. And they talk about being an artist as if it's an RPG. And there is a legitimate grind and skill level and leveling system of hitting these different points of becoming an artist. And once you get past them and you're on parallel with people that are on your level or close to your level, or that have certain armor sets that are going to take you to that next level, you notice that as long as you keep putting time in, you'll be all right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And everyone's got like their own sort of path to growth. I mean, with COVID and everything going on right now, you can't go to conventions and whatnot and be showing people your work that way. So the path to exposure now is mostly digital. So you have to be ready to grow in that manner. Getting your work out by Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, if you can through DeviantArt. I haven't tried DeviantArt, but it can work for some people. YouTube, if you're going to make tutorial videos, or Twitch, if you can stream, things like that. Finding out your own path to getting your work out, and growing through means like that. And, I mean, a lot of the big exposure to different connections I've had was through conventions. But I mean, posting stuff on Instagram, I occasionally get people hitting me up and saying like, "Hey, can you work on this comic for me?" Or can I commission you for this piece or this piece? And also, my coworker tends to get me some work, designing like characters for people they know. So get it out wherever possible, because you never know where money's gonna hit.
You're absolutely right. And I guess you're in an interesting position, because you have an obligation, or you have deadlines, but you also have the ability to create things. So in terms of valuing your art, being in the position you're in, how do you, one, price your art, in terms of like the time it takes to do and the amount of effort that goes into it and stuff, and what guided your process of creating the value for your work that you have now?
I'd say part of really finding out how to price my work has come down to the actual amount of people who are interested in it. When you're starting out, it's very easy to to say like, I haven't had a lot of people respond to my work, so I shouldn't price it too high. But as more people look into your stuff, and you see what other people are pricing their stuff at, you kind of figure out where you sort of sit along there. And you can always do like a little bit of research. I know for a while, like when it came to pricing my manga pages, it was I took the price that a lot of professionals had, and then kind of cut that to around like 70% of what they were charging. And sometimes it's especially when it came to pricing like stories, like making things like comics and manga and things like that. It took a lot of haggling. It's not that way when I'm doing like a single piece, where someone just wants like a headshot of a character, or they want like a full body design type of thing. Um, some people want to pay for the entire story up front, and then other people want to pay per page or per batch of pages. So there it takes a little bit of haggling. It also depends on like the type of comic they're looking to have. Like if they want something, that's very cartoonish, with a lot simpler art style, then I'll lower the price because it takes me a lot less time to make something like that, as opposed to something that's more like I want this to be like a big manga type of thing, with all this detail and stuff like that, and then I'm like, okay, well then that's gonna cost you more. I think the last manga commission I had, I charged, it was around 100 per black and white page, and then 150 per color.
Look at you evaluate yourself.
No, it was funny because the group that commissioned me, they were like, really? Just that much? This should be more.
Yo, the same thing happened to me because I was like, dude, you wanted me to animate this 3-minute long music video. So I was like, well, that's a lot of minutes. $1,500, $500 a minute. And I thought that was like a solid price. And then he said, oh, just $1,500. I was going,
honestly, I don't know what you're doing, because if somebody asked me to animate 3 minutes, I would charge them a shit ton more. No, because I'm just learning how to animate like right now. Like after White Manga put out that video, I'm like, okay, I gotta learn some of this because I have Clip Studio. That's what I do my work in. So I'm gonna try this out. I haven't put it up yet, but I have like maybe 10, 12 seconds, and it took me like forever to do. And I'm like, my gosh, if somebody asked me to do this, I don't know how much I'd charge.
Oh, exactly. And they be doing it with freaking real, with good art. Like anime style art now, like I've since learned the freaking Samurai Jack art style, because I'm not going to be out here using proper anatomy 24 frames a second. That's too much.
Well, I mean, yeah, anatomy's hard enough to draw, like, a single panel.
Yes! So before I learn how to do screen caps, and now I got to do them, and that only amounts to like 90% of a second. Like, no, that's too much.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, if you want to know why Dragon Ball Z has people moving, like only their mouth is moving and nothing else is, because it takes forever to freak.
Yeah, no, that's hard. Yo, you want me to do a lip cycle? You got thousands of dollars in your pocket?
Yes, you want to go fight scenes for like $150? Like, no, I'll draw you for $150.
Yeah, no, it's so hard. It's like, dude, I can't even.
Yeah, it's rough. What do you think about OpenTunes? OpenTunes is free. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good tutorials on it because a lot of professionals don't be using it. But I feel like if you use frame-by-frame animation, you'll be cool on OpenTunes. When you want to get into tweening and stuff, I feel it's a little more difficult. I think OpenTunes has lighting, but again, their interface is weird because they effectively just stole Flash's interface, made it free, and made it way more confusing. But Clip Studio also takes some time to get used to, and Clip Studio only got really intuitive like 2 years ago. Before that, it was a freaking nightmare, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and depending on which version of Clip Studio you use anyway, you only have a limited number of frames. I luckily have the EX version. So I don't think there's a limit to that, or if there is, it's really high. But the Pro version has, I think, a limit cap. I forget where, maybe at like 20 something frames or something. Mm-hmm. But I mean, up until now, I wasn't even using the animation part of Clip Studio. And then when I started, I'm like, okay, now that I've started this, I don't want to just let this sit and just never finish it. So I kept working on it, and it took me like, I'm ashamed to say, a week for like all that amounted to like 12 seconds.
Hey, you shouldn't be ashamed of. Do you have an iPad by chance, or are you working exclusively on a computer? Like, what's your setup like?
I actually have a Wacom Mobile Studio. So actually, I have it right here. I'm not sure if I'm
Sweet.
showing it.
Yeah, I can
It's
see it.
you can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It mine's a pretty early model, so it has its little hiccups every now and again. But once I got it going, it's really a good piece of hardware. And it's a computer too, so it's got Windows and all that. Up before that, I had a Wacom, which version? Intuos Pro,
Hmm.
and I had that connected to my garbage Mac. I only call it a garbage Mac because I've had it for years and years and years, and it wasn't working anymore. um, but again, this is something that comes with evolving. when I started to when I started to get more commissions and things like that, and this was really like right when I started working for PM, I was like, I got to get my work out faster. And before that point, I actually did a lot of my pages. I did the line art traditionally, and then I'd scan it and then do things like screen toning, and dialogue through Clip Studio on my computer, just using the scans. After that, and when I realized I needed to work faster, I started doing everything digital.
So you was out here with the G pen?
Yeah, I actually used the G Pen, like the nib and ink, for a little bit. I used the Sakura Pigma markers and things like that. Um, quick plug because Saturday crew are working with Sakura, so they're really good. I've used their liners since I started. But when I found that I needed to work faster, I did everything on my mobile studio.
That's freaking huge, and it's good that you did it traditionally as well. Because like my first serious the first best art that I made was on a freaking iPad. So, like I'm spoiled.
The first best art that you make is going to be the last piece that you make.
Yeah, I've been drawing with an iPad, and that's the problem. And that's the only downside of like being a product of the internet is that I've been getting commissions since I was like 12. So I've been drawing on an iPad since I was 12. And outside of art class, like I can do oil paintings and I can draw on an iPad. But if I have to sketch something, like if I was to make a comic page on a sketchbook, it would take me hours because I would.
Well, everyone has their own approach. Like I can't paint, man. I can't do stuff like that traditionally. I saw when White did his video on like screen toning traditionally. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't do that. Not just because I can't afford to do that, but
I watched the video. That's how I legit. All you need is just you're a martial artist. You can use a freaking sword. You can use a knife. You can use a knife. You can use an X-Acto knife. It's no difference. All you gotta do, bro, is you just press a little bit and then you make the thing. And as long as you don't go through the paper, you good. And because you scan it anyway, even if you cut.
No, but I'd be like, after working on line art, I'd be so scared of like just cutting my page. I'm like, I don't even understand how this weird, screen tone magic works. Like you're explaining it, it's going over my head.
The white video explains, like, I like that man's existence because he makes a video for everything I have ever wanted to learn. Because Mark Curley was the first one. I initially learned how to draw Mark Curley videos, and then this man decided to draw hentai characters and told me about how to write books. And I was like, well, I can't watch your videos no more, my good sir. So I was stuck for a little bit, and then I found like Jazza, and eventually made my way to White. And when White started coming out, and he don't be making videos like that, but when he do, they hit exactly the way they need to. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, they teach you exactly what you want to know. Like the first piece I made completely digital, it was this drawing of Kareem. I made, and I posted it on Instagram like as one of those, like 6 separate post type of things. And I had him drawn like this anime style type of thing, but that's only because I saw White's video on how to draw and create a piece that looks, like it's anime. And I'm like, okay, I want to try that. But if I scan my work in, gets all, aliased and everything like that, it's not going to look the way I want. So I got to draw this digital.
Yeah.
So that was the first piece, and it took me forever just because of my slow Mac. But it's so useful to watch things like YouTube videos, and I think that's another thing, a lot of growing artists need to do is actually start watching more videos on how to do the things you want and use those as different influence and references for later down the line.
Yeah. Carlos, what's up? Yeah, studying is freaking huge, bro. I think because I have since left the educational institution of which I used to belong. But the most important thing that school taught me how to study so I could teach myself things. And that's been the most valuable thing of all time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did graphic design back in college, so a lot of what I learned was, art related, and also like how to take different programs and, work with them in your own type of way. But I think it's also helped when it came to like watching a lot of YouTube videos. Is like, okay, I understand like everything you're saying right now because my professor taught me that like day one. And I guess that I work in an educational institution. Because I work at a college, and I do a lot of their design and printing, a lot of their design production type of stuff. It's not as magical as you're making it out to be.
Bro, I run a clothing company. You say the word printing, I get excited.
No, well, it's not as interesting as printing clothing. we print the signs that say orientation this way.
It's a job, and that's the other thing that because you being an illustrator and yet also having an understanding of graphic design and also knowing the different avenues of the ways that you can make art, you show people that you can actually make bread as an artist. For some reason, people still don't think the artist can get to the bag.
They can. It's not the traditional route of doing it. I think a lot of people think, that when they start making comics, they should immediately be making money from those comics. But that is really difficult to do. And it's really difficult to, have a steady flow of cash coming just from comic work alone, which is why, I need my full-time job at the same time. Luckily, that job, tends to also get lax enough that I can actually work on my stuff at work. But, for, I guess, people out there thinking that, like, the moment you start working on comics and the moment people start seeing your work, that all this cash is going to come flowing in, it's unfortunately not that way. It can be lucrative. You can get, like, really high-paying gigs every now and again, like $100 per page. Pretty nice. Not nice enough, apparently, but pretty nice. But it's trying to keep that from like even that I realized as I was working on it that it wasn't a lot just because of the amount of time it takes to actually make a page, and by the time those pages were done and the cash came in from that, it's like I already used the cash I got before. But
everybody feels that, and I think it might be because regular people price themselves by the hour, and so once you get into higher levels as an artist, you gain the ability to price yourself by the hour.
And I think definitely when you start working and you're paid per hour, a lot more money starts coming in that way. But for the most part, a lot of the gigs you're going to be getting are going to be things like, how much per page, or, how much would this piece cost me? And, it's hard to tell them, oh, it's, going to be this much per hour and it's going to take me this long to do. So you do the math.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of clout, or not clout. What's the nicer word than clout?
reputation.
There we are. That's the reputation. That's the beauty of hitting these milestones with followers and projects that have come out. Is you can say, "Hey, fam, I got 50,000 freaking followers. You know how many people I got in my DMs? You at the top of that list? Well, if you do, here's the price. Otherwise, wait a line and I'll come back."
Or better yet, when you've gotten like, a comic out there and you're like, you bought this in the store, man. I'm in the stores. You ain't paying me per page. You're paying me per hour, bro. Like, if you don't want it, then I'll move on. I got a list of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's not even being arrogant. It's a simple matter of you as an artist valuing that. And I think now the internet has given us the ability as artists to have the power to value ourselves and also to leverage connections. How did you learn how to advocate for yourself as an artist in business?
To be fair, I probably don't enough. Like, one thing, when I get a lot of commissions coming in, I have to turn a lot down just because of like a time constraint type of thing. But if I were doing it properly, people would know whether or not my commissions were opened or closed. So occasionally when it comes down to business I have coming in, it's really just random. It's really just, I made a post, it happened to reach certain individuals, and then they slide into my DMs and just like, "Hey, you take commissions?" So, one thing that I know I want to do eventually when I feel as though like I'm in a spot where I found my sort of flow with, the work that I, get published, but also, with random commissions coming in, is I want to make my own sort of, commission chart, so that people can easily, check it and see like, oh, okay, his commissions are open and they're this much, and I don't need to ask how much it's going to cost me. Because the way I've been doing it, I try to be professional about it, but at the same time, it's like when I have to explain, in like 3 long replies to a message that it's going to cost this much for this and that, then it's a lot more difficult to keep work coming in that way.
Indeed, which is unfortunate, but I just blocked that person from the live because I have no time.
Yeah, he's gonna hate.
Hold up, what? I blocked the video. Hide button. There we are. All right. Anyway. Yeah, you're freaking right. And it's good that you have that process. It's good that you're not burning yourself out and overworking, trying to appeal to a whole bunch of things that would ultimately do you more harm than good. I appreciate you having healthy habits, bro. A lot of artists can learn a lot from you. And I hope you do more greatness in the future. Because, like, even now, I want to go sit down and freaking work on my speed lines now.
Well, I mean, Clip Studio makes it easy. I remember I was working traditionally, like I told you, I did inking traditionally. Speed lines were awful. I will roar and I'd make a little, vanishing point with pencil and just, hatch away for hours and hours and speed lines in the background.
That's the tricky thing about hatching, is I feel like it looks better when you build those values over. That was the one thing that I did like about traditionally inking, even though it took freaking forever, is the look of hatching when thousands of tiny little lines come together. But
yeah, well, I mean, there's ways to do that digitally, I found. I mean, for one, you could always just treat it like traditional. Like if you're working on a tablet, you just hatch and hatch and hatch and hatch until, you get the values that you're looking for. Some Jones got a question. I currently, no. The only series I have is Underground, and that is pretty much going to be the only series I work on for a good while, at least until, I found, a pace where I'd be able to work on 2 series consistently. It would be pretty cool, and I have a few different concepts in my head, but I gotta put them on the side for now. And I think it's a thing that a lot of artists have to do too. You have different ideas, but when you start working on something, you got to commit to it. So for now, Underground is the only one, but hopefully I get more exciting stuff going on in there, and that'll keep people entertained.
I am impressed by your existence, fam.
Man, I try.
Nah, dude, thank you for existing. Last question, because my phone is at freaking 10%, and I actually saving this live. Are you in or are you from New York?
I am from New York. I'm originally from the Bronx, but now I live upstate. I say upstate, but it's actually just higher than the city.
New York be like that. New York is like a pocket dimension.
Yeah, no, New York City is New York, and then everything else is just upstate.
It's trees, and it's beautiful. And the worst part is that they don't allow none of that beauty in places where rich people aren't in the city. Places where rich people are, and then straight concrete, and then highways. And the highways lead to all these beautiful places.
Well, man, I love the city, man. Like, I mean, I wish I could be there more often. But even after moving up here, like I've always felt like, I'm from the Bronx. I'd rather be in the Bronx right now. More stuff to do.
I understand that, because it's like I'm from Georgia, so like everywhere that I go it's based on my benchmark of being from Georgia and the places of Georgia that I was at when I was younger and became the person that I am now. And what was the reason I asked you about? Oh yeah, that was the reason. Bronx. Bronx is not Brooklyn. But as a martial artist, there's certain experiences that are shared. Did you find that there were certain individuals that wanted to test themselves, perhaps under the ground, when it came to their martial ability?
Well, I mean, not when it came to martial art ability, but there was an instance where a group of guys did try to mug me. Yeah, no. I didn't. It wasn't like an all-out brawl I ended up getting into. I tried to walk past it, and then I kicked him in the gonads and. But I mean, I went to a Jesuit high school. Like, we all came out in our suit jackets and ties, and I had this big old camping bag, and I probably looked like an easy target.
This is good. And freaking bujitsu. There must be honor in the way that. No, you wanted to make it home. You made it home. Thank you. Thank you for existing, fam. Thanks for coming to the live.
Thanks for having me.
For real. I'm freaking glad you freaking exist, yo. So, to people watching this right now, Underground, Saturday p.m. Hold up. How do you say your username? I actually haven't known how to say your username.
It's Drama Manga.
Oh, yeah, I would have never. I thought it
Good drama with a J.
All right, Drama Manga?
Yeah.
Bet. All right. Thank you for coming to the Juaso Live. People, thank you for coming to the Juaso Live. And go read Underground. I got 3 chapters I ain't read because I've been busy drawing same animation for the past 4 months. And I want to catch up on it while I'm in the tub.
Yeah, that's all good. We have the Saturday AM app. You can find Underground in Saturday PM specifically, which is the adult seinen brand of Saturday AM. I start in issue 4, and I've been in every issue up to issue 11. As well, for those looking to catch up a lot quicker, I do have a retro pack which contains chapters 1 through 3 all in one package for you. I believe it's $2.99 on the app.
The retro packs make me happy. You don't know, because I be trying to find certain things, and I gotta go through and Saturday app. It starts with the newest things. So you gotta keep scrolling.
Yeah, no, you gotta go back. You gotta find
yes!
different. So the retro packs are definitely really helpful. And you know, if you're looking to catch up on not just my series but any series, definitely recommend the retro packs. They also do have a bit of extra content in there and their own, you know, cool art covers. You know, if you want to roll with that too. Like if you just dig like a really nice cover. But a lot also have a little bit of extra content, like, you know, character turnarounds and, you know, different thoughts from the creators themselves. So definitely worth checking out retro packs, maybe even if you've already caught up on the series.
This is going to be a thing that I didn't know about. I didn't know about the extra content. I just thought I wouldn't have to scroll through 5.
Well, my retro pack only contains the extra cover. But I mean, if you're looking to have all of Underground in one spot, or at least the first 3 chapters all in one spot, that's about a little over 100 pages. It's all there.
Well, I'm gonna go study now. It's gonna take a very long bath. Thank you for coming to Manga. This has been freaking insightful, and I'm sure a lot of people right now and in the future are going to get a lot from it.
I hope they do, man. That's the dream. That's my dream, at least.
Hey, it's gonna happen, bro. Peace.
All right, peace. Charge your phone, man.
Oh, most definitely.